Hello, welcome back to my channel, Learning with Sadaf. I'm here to help you with numerical questions like these about macroeconomics or microeconomics, and I will go into econometric series as well. Right now, we're going to focus on ISLM model. If you're given an exam, questions like these, that's how you're supposed to go for it. Before I jump into this question, I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of what ISLM model is. Then I'll show you how to solve this kind of questions. In macroeconomics, because whole thing is about a broader level of how different economies work or how one country works in respect to other countries, it usually divides into two categories. One is good and services. Another sector here is money market. So in this ISLM model, we're going to look at not just good and services market, but also at money market and the equilibrium relationship between them. ISL, first if we start with IS curve here represents equilibrium in good market. LM curve in response to that represent equilibrium in money market. So ISLM model is just a mix of how these two markets work together and how equilibrium output and interest rate can be derived out of that. IS curve is derived from Keynesian growth. I'm not going to go in detail of that. But the main thing here is an LM model here will be derived by the intersection of money demand and money supply. If we start with IES curve, it roughly tells us the relationship between interest rate and equilibrium output on this side. And that curve is usually, or in most cases, it's a downward sloping curve, representing that when interest rate is very high, equilibrium output, or Y, or GDP of the country is very low. When interest rate is low, output increase. This captures the relationship between investment and GDP. This is IS curve. And for LM curve, we looked at intersection of money demand and money supply. Sometimes LM curve can be a vertical line, sometimes it can be horizontal line, but in most cases it's going to look like an upward sloping curve looking like this. It represents a direct relationship between interest rate and output, representing that when interest rate is very high, output of a country increases. When interest rate increases, output increases as well. And in this whole thing, or in this whole equation, we're going to look at the intersection of these two. We'll try to find equilibrium level of y and I. So basically the intersection of IS and LN curve. So our main thing here would be to drive equilibrium level of output and equilibrium level of interest rate. Without further ado, let's jump into these questions and solve first question from here. These first four part represents components of IES model. First, we have consumption function. Consumption function starts with intercept of 800, which represents autonomous consumption, and then we have 0.5 YD. YD here represents disposable income, which is just total income minus taxes, and that 0.53 or 0.25 here represents marginal propensity to consume. Then we have investment function over here. Investment function is the same thing as consumption function, slightly different obviously. 900 represents autonomous investment. 0.25 times Y here represents marginal propensity to invest. And then this is the main relation of why IS curve is a downward sloping curve. It represents that interest rate has a negative sign in response to investment, showing that when interest rate is high, investment opportunity is reduced. When cost of borrowing increases, people would not want to invest in that scenario. That represents a downward sloping IS curve. And then we have government spending and taxes. And these two component here represents LM curve. M is represented with money, and when any variable is divided by P, that can be called as real. Because it's money, so I'm going to write it down as real money. There's a small d in it, representing real money demand. So the first equation of LM market represents that the money demand here is depends on total output minus 12,000 I. It can be visually represented like this. Interest rate is over here, money is over here. It's gonna look like this. It shows that the money demand positively depends on total income. High income would mean that people would demand more money, but it negatively represents or negatively depends on interest rate, showing that when interest rate is high, people would not want to hold money or would not want to demand more money, because at that point it is efficient for them to save their money or buy bonds instead of demanding money. So that's the money demand curve. And this here is M over P with a small s as a subscript on it, which is money supply. Money supply is constant 6,000. In most cases, money supply is determined by central bank of a country, and it's usually a constant number. In that case, it's 6,000. Now I can draw money supply like this. Their equilibrium, or the intersection of these two curves, will help us locate equilibrium interest rate and equilibrium money supply, and both of these represents LM curves. I think this was enough for these to go into these models. Let's jump into first question and see how we can derive IS relationship from this equation. As I've told you earlier, that these first four equations represents IS relationship. Before you go into that, you have to know that IS or Y, represented by IS, is a combination of consumption, investment, and government spending. If you know this formula, rest is easier from here. All you need to do is plug in the value of consumption, investment, government spending, and taxes in here. That will bring you, or that will lead you the IS relationship. So let's start with consumption. Consumption here is 800 plus 0.5, and instead of ID I'm going to write it down as Y minus taxes, and we do know that taxes here are 400. Investment function here is 900 plus 0.5y. It doesn't have any d sign in it, disposable in it, so no need to put taxes here, and minus 2500 times I. So the first step here would be to bring all the variables, all the coefficients that have y in it to other side or to left hand side, and keep the constant on the right hand side. I'm going to start over here. 0.5 y minus 100 plus 900 plus 0.25y minus 2500 I. This and this, both of these have y in it. I'm going to bring it them to other side. Minus 0.25y minus 0.25y, and let's add these constants. So let's put these constants together. Plus 900 minus 2500 I. Okay, I'm forgetting I forgot to put taxes or government spending over here. It needs to go over here of 600 like this. Okay. And after solving this, that would be minus 0.5y, or that will be 0.5y. 1 minus 0.5 would just give you 0.5y. Solving this will give us 800 minus 100 plus 900 and plus 600 gives me 2200 minus 2500 I. And now I need to get rid of 0.5 that is being multiplied with y. All I need to do is divide 0.5 on both sides like this. This cancels out and y will be 2200 divided by 0.5, that's 4400, and 2500 divided by 0.5 is 5000 I. So this is the IS curve. It tells us that the intercept for IS line, if I were to represent IS curve over here, I goes here, Y goes here. The first function here tells us that the intercept of this should be 4400. Starting point for that needs to be this. And the slope for that is minus 5000, or it's gonna look like this. Okay. This is IS curve representing negative relationship between interest rate and total output. This brings us to the end of this video. In the next video I'll try to go into question 2 and question 3. If you have any question, I'd be happy to answer you these. Put those in comment, and I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you very much. I'll see you in my next video.